Hello and welcome. My name is Andrew Albury-Dor. I am a ServiceNow developer from Brisbane, and I am live streaming the ServiceNow K20 Creatorcon Hackathon, many things-a-thon. It is about 6:30 p.m. on the first day for us in Australia. It's been started about 12 hours since it started, actually, and my team, I think we're doing pretty well. I'm really happy with the progress we've been making. Yeah, I might take you through what's been going on. So to sort of lay the picture, we had an idea where, because my wife is an emergency nurse, she is involved in resuscitation events. So a patient loses their heart, they lose you do CPR essentially. They crash, code blue, everyone comes running, jumps on their chest, starts doing compressions, and then you follow what's called the advanced life support algorithm. It has some basic rules and logic around what you are required to do, and then some inputs and outputs, and if this, then administer this drug, if that, then shock them. It's pretty much perfect for a piece of software to follow an algorithm, and you have some if statements and some at statements, and yeah, a really good use case. And my wife really hates the system that they have at the moment because it is pretty much the opposite of ServiceNow. It's huge and old and clunky and takes a million years to do anything and not customizable, and you don't get any feedback. And then they're expected to spend upwards of a minute or two just to write down a drug that they've administered to a patient, where they don't have that time. They need it done right there and then. So I was saying, look, ServiceNow is a platform that's customizable, and that's exactly what it's for. And so we sat down and I wrote out a whole bunch of requirements, did some wireframing, and we had something pretty well jotted down in the last few days. Chat with the team, they were happy with the idea, and so we've sort of put together a basic portal with a whole bunch of custom widgets that we're working on and starting to get things happening. So let me jump over to my screen share and find my mouse. Let's have a look at our portal here. So, look, things have been happening. This is obviously a work in progress. The situation is a crash happens. We get start resus event. Nope, that is not it. we have a page. I'm not sure where it is. Let me have a look. Resus. RRP launch. We have a page. RRP launch. So the beginning, the nurse who is assigned to record what is happening during this event opens this, probably the first page, clicks start a new one. They start adding people as what role they're performing in this particular event. You have specific roles for specific people for the first 6. So we have a drug nurse, a scribe nurse, a medical team lead, a nurse team lead, and then a list box of pretty much anyone else that's around that jumps in and helps. We hit the big go button, and that generates a new event. I'm just surprised that we've got some history in this one. From there, we have a current timer that's starting. The algorithm says that a cycle is 2 minutes. You start compressions, do breaths for 2 minutes, and then you stop and you evaluate the patient. So you check their heart and you see what sort of rhythm their heart is in. That's this box over here. You have 4 options for rhythms: ventricular tachycardia, ventricular fibrillation, PEA, whatever that means, and asystole. So this kind of comes back to another point we were going to build into the system, is we want to be able to have a layman switch to train up nurses that may have been brought in because of the current situation. Like, not everyone is going to be a trained resus nurse when they take on their first resus. And if you see a page full of 2-3 letter acronyms, we should probably think about how to help them in this situation. So we're going to have a toggle somewhere. We haven't built this yet. That's maybe what I'm thinking about doing on this stream. That when you click it, the whole page changes to layman's terms. We actually understand, or at least goes from acronyms to full terms. Because the people doing it are obviously trained professionals. They know what ventricular tachycardia is, but they may not realize that in this particular situation, VT stands for that. I mean, they probably would, but yeah. So, we've got a bunch of widgets. We've got a widget that sort of monitors time and cycles. That's in progress. The patient information widget. We've got the running history. So this is sort of the history of everything that's happened to the patient and the documentation. So the official, this is the events that happened at these times. They've happened however many times, and it's like a running history of this particular event. We've got the ability to add notes, which doesn't seem to be working yet, but it will show up sort of like that. And then we're going to have a section here to administer drugs, shock, not shock, and up the top here we're working on an alert system. Obviously, if you're familiar with ServiceNow, you'll know that it's a little tricky to have all of these widgets work independently. So one of the big things that we're working on is events that we're moving, like sending and receiving and doing all that sort of crazy jazz. We'll have one widget, say this widget here, to administer shocks. When you click it, it will send, I wonder, because my team have been working on this without me. Yeah. So we've got listeners that catch events, records that are written, and lots of fun console logs. That's really cool. I wonder if that happened at the end. So we've got rhythm, shock, another shock administered. I don't think these are in any kind of order. Maybe that's what I should work on. So yeah, like it's coming along. Like, things are happening, and it's only been 12 hours. One of the guys on the team, Jared, he was only able to hang around for a little bit because he's in the US and time zones are weird. He'll probably be waking up in a couple hours and then raring to help. So we'll probably have to do a handover for him. And Jace has been working on some stuff. My mate Kevin and David and Kevin's mate Chris. So yeah, guys you may have seen around, you may not have seen around. We'll do some introductions probably in a later stream when people are up and around. I think there may be a check-in with the dev guys. We'll see. So anyway, let's get into some of this development stuff. Where did I leave off? I was working on my timeline, so that's this one here. So it's a fairly I'll say fairly simple. I stole the HTML off some random code share thing because I really liked that, and then I used it for my system status page widget thing that you might have seen. This shows the history of the status updates for what you call it, services when you have outages. So I've taken the HTML there, and I've been cutting and pasting bits and pieces. You can see lots of comments and copies and pastes and an old outage script that we probably don't need anymore. I've chucked a record watcher. That's pretty much where I was at. I've added a record watcher that checks for any new entries and updates the server. So what I should probably do is, this is the glide record that actually looks up all of the events. I need to sort that and filter it, because the events aren't actually filtered by the sysid of the current and it's resuscitation, it's this. So the resuscitation event table, I think somebody misspelt when they were creating the table. I don't think it was me, and I'm not going to point fingers. Somebody misspelt it, but yeah. Anyway, I think I might. Let's save that and go back to this page. Refresh. We have pretty much the same number there. Let's have a look at the table. All events. No, we definitely shouldn't have that many. What's this idea am I working with here? Resuscitation sysid is that one. Yeah, I should only have 3. A shocker notes and a shock. I think that was what I did. I'm going to put the created on. Oh, these guys have got it working. Oh. I love it when I come back from dinner and stuff's done. It's awesome. Okay, so something is not working in this glide query over here. Glide record. Add record. Resuscitation. Man, those classic glide queries I'm really bad at. I always just freaking get a encoded query. And add the... Yeah, so we're getting the current record from the SP parameter. I mean, unless that's not working. No, it should work. So I got 55 events. That is not... That's all of the events. I wonder if that's not the right field. Should be the right field. You know what it is? I bet you I need to refresh the widget editor. It hasn't actually saved anything I've done. Because I was logged out. Yeah, there it is. So much stuff. I got rid of that as well. I've been around that block. There we go. Look at that. Love it when it works. All right. I'm just going to pause for a second because it doesn't look like anyone particular is watching. And I'm going to tweet about this. Let me share. Share over here, and I might share in a few things over there, and we'll see if it spikes. Awesome. So I worked out what that problem was. Timeline. Right, so now we need to filter or sort. Nope. How do you do that? Order by. Descending. Sys created on. I think that's the name of the field. Shock notes. Test notes again. PEA. Rhythm noted. That is awesome. I don't like that they jump from side to side. So the way here we go. The way that they're sort of slotted side to side. Yeah, is simply a increment down here. So we start a count with the event and we go plus plus. And then if the count is an even one, it goes one side. If it's not, it goes the other. I don't like that. I wonder how I'm going to be able to order them in a way that the first one is always 1, the second one is always 0, the third one is always 1. Wonder if there's a way to return the point, the number in which a glide record. So as you step through it, glide record index, position of rings a bell, maybe something like that. Glide record position while nth position in a glide record query. Here we go. Gotta love community. Get row number. That's probably all I need. So that way, the query should, like, the first thing will always be first, and the last thing will always be last. So rather than count, I'll go position. Just leave that as an empty. Position equals gr event dot get row count. No, what was it? Get row number. I reckon that's not going to work in a scoped app. Probably. I'm going to get some errors. Yeah. All things that are too good to be true happen in a scope. Or global, we'll put it that way. Get row number in scope ServiceNow. Get row number. Yeah, server legacy. Get row number. There is no scoped equivalent. So I could do get row count and maybe take it off one at a time. Where are we? Over here. Count equals get row count. No. I'll have to move that down after here. Var row count equals event.get row count. Count equals I don't know if that's going to work. Row count. Row count. And then row count minus row count. No, I can't remember. Pretty sure it's minus, but row count equals row count minus 1. And then Fix that up. If that had worked, it would have been amazing. So let's add... Aha! Ha! That's better. I don't know if I want it going that way or that way. I think I want it going the other way and scrolling up. So I need to make that whole thing scrollable and scroll the other way. So order by rather than order by descending. And then it's a bootstrap well. I think I've got a whole bunch of overflow for scroll. Bootstrap well scroll. Overflow. Overflow auto, overflow hidden, overflow auto. So maybe if I crap, chuck that in overflow auto. That feels, yeah, too easy. Let's have a look at this element. It has overflow auto. I wonder if I have to give it a height. Timeline, it's that height, 80%. There's no scroll in there. I would love to make that. No, I need to fix that. I could put the whole thing in just a div that overflows. That might work for now. Because that's actually an unordered list. I don't need that. Div class equals overflow auto. And I'll take it out of there. Drop this div around my unordered list. Save and try over here. That didn't do anything. I have a div that overflows auto that has my class in it. Does it need a freaking height? 100 pixels. Nope. Nope. Interesting. I might have to get my teammate, who is much better at CSS than I am, to have a play with that. I wonder if it's because it's an ngIf and it's kind of built in, I don't want to say shadow DOM, but stupid DOM at least. It's not exactly smart. I'll bet that if I actually had a rendered list of things and it knew how long it was going to be, it would be fine, but it doesn't. So That's always... Yeah. Okay, let's... What else was I going to look at? I could... Yeah, so you can see the background with the line in there. Used to extend, like if we turn that off. Oh yeah, now it extends and you can see the whole way down. Interesting. I wonder if I put it in an iframe. No, I'm not going to do that. We got that. They wanted to have an edit button. Actually, let's have a look at these events that were being generated. It looks like they've got it working. Like, that's really cool. So interesting design that we're looking at here. So we have the resuscitation task, which is generated when we get here. That's this sysid, right? And then we have these events of various classes that are related to that resuscitation task, and that kind of gives us the running history of everything that's happened. And we made a events table and extended that for each of the different task types, so we could have a related list, and you can do filters and all that cool things. The trick was, when we're over in, say, the notes, right, you type your notes, you hit add, we wanted to capture information that's over here, what time in the current cycle it is, the count, all that sort of crap. And that's not super easy to do because these are two completely separate widgets. And we wanted to be able to send events from this widget and send events from that widget. So we've kind of come up with a way that when you add a note, all it does is it transmits that note as an event to the global scope. And the timer widget acts as kind of a central repository for these things. It catches these event notifications, the details that are in them, and writes them to the table. And then we've got a record watcher on this history that shows you what's going on. And that way we can include the additional information from the timer widget on all of those things. I want to have a look at this code. Where's the button? Instance in page, widget, customizations, widget and editor. There's the button. Because when I left, they were talking about some interesting write event, function event, data, shock. How is that doing notes and stuff? Oh, it adds additional things. Event data equals data, yeah. If input, which is what? Okay, so man, that's easier than I imagined. So we get the data and the event into the function over here. So this is the write event. We just straight up set event data to that data object that we've got. If it's a shock, we increment the number, which is over here. It's like shock count here. And if it's adrenaline, we increment the adrenaline. So if I go back to here, we should have... Oh yeah, look at that. We haven't got the drug stuff done yet, but And then all it does is update the server, which if we go back over here, there's an if input. Oh, hello puppy. Yes. Good puppy. Granger. Shh. So, no. Sorry. So if there's an input, which is what happens when the client script updates the data object, it initializes the input event data table, sets the value to the resuscitation, which is the sysid, and if the table is notes, sets the notes. If it's a rhythm, sets the rhythm type. If it's a shock, sets the other values. Adds the times, which is what we were talking about, and then insert. Like, that's amazing. It just works. That's really cool. And otherwise, it just looks up, starts afresh. Oh, actually, that's a. Is that a problem? No. Interesting. Like, I guess it doesn't do that. It doesn't reset the times because it's already got an input, and the only time that it should do that is if we, for some reason, accidentally refresh the page. Yeah, okay. No, that's great. So what else was I going like? That's really cool. What was I going to look at? I don't feel like attacking CSS, but I really like all that stuff. I should get the data from those tables showing better. So we've got what it's actually doing, but the when it's showing as a date, not a duration. And I should actually get some information out of that thing, out of the glide record. Oh, that's right. So because I'm querying on the parent table, I can't really get special information out of it. I'm going to have to do a secondary glide query on the table table type. All right, so if I do a function I don't think those are hoisted. I'll do them up here. And I want to pass in sysid and table. Specific. What am I going to call this? GREV, that'll do. Equals new glide record on table. And grev.get sysid. Return an object with, and build the object, equals it's going to have to be a different object for each of these types. So if table equals silly me. You can tell that I am running on not a whole lot of sleep at the moment. And that's not anything to do with Hackathon. It is just because I have young children who do not like to sleep. If table equals const dot rhythm. We'll start with that one. Which is one of these events. So if it's on the rhythm table, we want to return the rhythm type. Oh, hey Victor, how's it going? It's good to have somebody join me on my often lonely live streams. So if it's on the rhythm table, let's go have a look at Studio Rhythm. Wake up, Studio. There we go. It is a choice. And it is called Rhythm. Out dot rhythm equals grev dot get value rhythm. Return out. So we're trying this. So I've got a function that you give it a table and a sysid, it returns an object with additional information. Because we're adding stuff to this object. Maybe it should return something else. Maybe it shouldn't be an object. Maybe it should be... pardon me. What should it be? An array, and then we can step through that array. And then add each of those objects. Can array be an array of objects? And then we just get... Because we kind of need to know what it is to output it. Let's stick with this, and I feel like I'm getting in too deep. I need to start logging something to a console somewhere so I actually know what I'm doing. sp log, which is something that I learnt earlier today. $sp.log in the server script, and you can log to the console when it runs, which is spectacular. You don't have to go back into the instance logs and then to your console logs. That's a really great little tip. sysid and table. So I've got the sysid, which is event dot sysid, surprise, surprise, and the table is event dot type. Let's try that and see what I get back. I got an error. Invalid table name notes. I think I need to pass in event.class name. because the other one is the display value, not... Hey, there we go. Look at that, and I've even got the correct rhythms returning. So as you can see, each one of these is one of these, and for the rhythms, it has the information, which is what we want. And I want to add that so I've got an object that's rhythm ASIS or VT or VF or PEA. Rhythm. Alright, so if I add one of those, so playing around in the console is a great way to x0 So we call a function that goes out, and it could be to any table, I guess, and it returns an object with specific information, but we don't know what that information is going to be when it comes back. In this case, it's rhythm, but if we went and said, say, if table equals const dot shock, what have we got? Drug notes. So yeah, notes is a good one. Then out.note equals grev.get get value, and I'll bet it's note, right? So we're going to a different table, to a different field, and getting a different value. Frick, where are we? Here. And now if we have a look, we've got some nulls, which I mean is better than nothing. Let's have a look at the notes table and we'll see what it is actually. Notes, plural, okay. Over here, editing resource, notes. Nope. That definitely should have worked. So if I actually go to the table and have a look at notes. There are some notes there. Igor, hello. So I am working on our hackathon entry. It is essentially a documentation tool for nurses and doctors who are running emergency resuscitation events. It's somebody's heart stops, somebody loses circulation, they stop breathing, you begin CPR, and in a hospital that's called a resuscitation. You have a group of people that are involved in the resuscitation event, and there's a fairly straightforward algorithm that's called the advanced life support algorithm. It specifies stuff like you have a 2-minute cycle of compressions and breaths. At the end of the cycle, you check your patient's heart and see what heart rhythm it is in, and then you, depending on what that rhythm is, there's some different logic. So if it's ventricular fibrillation, VF, or if it's VT, ventricular tachycardia, you can then administer a shock, and then the cycle starts again. Every second cycle, you can give 1 milligram of adrenaline, and on the third cycle, you can give 500 milligrams of amiodarone, which is another drug. And all of this stuff is kind of logic, and there's rules around it, but it needs to be documented. So my wife, who is a nurse that works at a hospital and does this, says that the systems that we have here in Australia, we've just gone to a digital system, and it's not quick, it's not friendly, it's not easy. And with the pandemic and everything that's happening, we're getting a lot of upskill, and people don't really know exactly what's going on. So we're building our app to document efficiently and guide people to what they'll have to do at the right time. So we're kind of building a single pane view of what's going on. We've got the running history here. We're going to have an alerts widget that sort of says, look, this is what you need to do next. Get ready for this. Enter what their heart rate is. So you pick one of these, and that will dismiss the alert, note it down, and continue on with another cycle. Obviously, we've only been working on it for about 12 hours. My team have all stepped out for dinner / are asleep because they're in the US and Australia. And yeah, I'm just sort of streaming what I'm up to. So I'm working on this history widget, which I stole some HTML from something else that I built ages ago, where I stole some HTML from somewhere else. It's pretty much just creating a ordered, unordered list. Unordered list, I think, for each event. Yeah, here. So list item repeats for some events, which I'm doing a lookup over here. And what I'm trying to do right now is work out how I can show specific information for each of these events that are on separate tables. I'm just sort of a little bit stuck because we have a parent table, which is our event table. If you haven't ever seen this const stuff before, this was a trick that Chuck Tomasi showed on a live coding happy hour a few weeks ago. If you're working in a scoped app, you can create a script include, and I can show you that over here. So it's a script include that we've called const, right? You ditch all of the boilerplate except for creating a class, and then you can simply define some constants throughout your application. And because you've got your scope name and then some particularly long table names, now you can just call const resus pretty much any script throughout your whole app, which is really, really awesome and has saved us a lot of time and going back and forth and trying to find table names already. Yeah, so I'm starting at the parent table, which is the event, which you can see resus runner event. And then we've extended the event table into, I think, 4 child tables. So we've got drug administered, notes, rhythm check, and shock. If you have a look at here, so we've got a notes field, a shock field, a rhythm check, and the drugs we haven't done yet. Yeah, that's right. We don't want to keep all the names in our head. So yeah, I sort of said to my teammates, I'm like, is there some way that if you query a parent table, like if you query task table, how do you get the information from a child table, like incident, if you want, I don't know, something that's not an inherited field? And they've sort of gone, it's not as easy as that. It's easier to just do another glide record for every sub table, I guess, which kind of sucks, but that's where we're at the moment. So I thought I'd functionize it, because screw doing every single thing again and again and again. And we're passing in the sysid of the record in the table that we want to query, and we're returning specific information based on what that table is. I'm just trying to work out how to take like that piece of data and add it to the event object before we push it into the what do you call it? The events data object that is then stepped through in the client side. If you haven't done portal stuff before, it's different, but still fun. It's not as I like the back end stuff. I find quite easy. You know, you sit down, you write your business rules, you write your script includes, whatever. It just happens. Portal stuff, because you're passing data around, you've got a DOM to worry about. You've got, like, in our case, a lot of events that we're sending out, and record watches and stuff, and we want to make sure that everything's displayed correctly. It gets a little tricky. But, you know, that's what we're here to do. We're here to code and hack and solve problems and have a bit of fun. So, I was at the point where I was logging the get details here. So how do I sort of... So I've got... I've refreshed that. So let's grab one of these objects and make it an object. So x.rhythm, right? That's what we want. We want to add var y equals test hello. So I'm making y and x. Y plus x. Nope. See, y dot rhythm equals x dot rhythm, like, and that's kind of what we want to do, but I don't want to have to call the rhythm. Like, I want to know what that is programmatically, and you can't sort of go x0, right? Because it's not an array. But if I had an array of objects, I'm still yeah. So Victor, why did we decide to do it in Portal and not in Now UI or Now Experience? Have you had a lot of experience, a lot of investigation into the Now UI? Because I've done some digging, and I've got some friends that have done more digging than I have, and it looks cool, but there is stuff missing that is just not documented and not published. Stuff like record watches. We know that there's a node package called ServiceNow / AMB-record watcher, I think. That isn't published, at least it's not published publicly, and you can't actually make a record watcher in Now Experience as it is in Orlando that we know of. So we did talk about it, and there is definitely points for Now Experience for the judges. Like, I know that that's going to be a thing, but it's just not really feasible. Like, we don't want to bash our heads against a new technology that none of us really understands for 3 days. yeah, in future releases, there needs to be more documentation. I've definitely spoken to the developer guys, like the developer advocates, AJB and Brad, about that. They are aware, like they didn't write the documentation, but they know it's sort of light on. And if you've saw any of the live coding happy hours that they've done in the last, there was 3 in a row that they did on the Now experience, and I think the first 2 they were pretty much getting it set up and starting to understand how JSX and stuff worked. And I think I actually jumped into one of those and helped out. It's a stretch, and it's not something that a standard ServiceNow developer can just pick up and run with, because it's off platform. And then once you've actually built stuff, you publish, and it goes to like a workspace homepage. I mean, I get that that's where it goes, but that's not where an application should live. I think next release or the release after, you'll probably see, you'll be able to make a, maybe not a single page application, but something that is more like a portal, like a portal page that we can drop some components into and stuff like that. I know that it's going to go that way. Even the back-end platform, I think, is going to be Now Experience in not too long. We're going to close our eyes and blink, and then all of a sudden ServiceNow will look and feel completely different. I'm excited to see what it's like. I hope that it's not something that we have to fight against for 1 or 2 major versions before they actually start getting it right. But I'd like to think the time they've had since London and Madrid to get the agent workspace stuff set up hopefully means they can get the back end stuff done properly. Yeah, so I also really like the live coding happy hours. It's a bit rough for me because they start at about 6 a.m., 7 a.m. my time, depending on whether or not Central or whatever the American time zone is in daylight savings. It goes earlier and later. Yeah, so I want Now Experience to be better than it is. Before I start investing a lot of time in it. I'm happy to play around with the CLI and GitHub and all these new skills that I'm sort of picking up as we go. Sorry, my dog is freaking out a bit. She's playing with a cat. But yeah, like for this, it was definitely not the right decision. We're going to try and make maybe a little dashboard or something with some components if we've got a bit of time, so we can say, yeah, we've used some Now Experience. Look, here's how many active resusces or how many patients have survived this year. That sort of thing. Like we definitely want to do that. Yeah, so that's where we're at. It's good to sort of have a chat about the reasons behind things, because it kind of opens your eyes to what other people think and feel. I find like I've written a lot of service portal stuff. I guess a lot of people haven't. That kind of surprises me, because service portal is the way that your staff interact with you 95% of the time. I mean, I guess if it's ITSM, you might not have a whole heap of portal stuff. Like you could probably get away without a catalog, but for me, like I work at a customer, catalog, service portal, that's bread and butter. Like we want to be able to get our end users to self-service and solve their problems as quickly and efficiently as possible, and that's where service portal is right now. That's what it's for. And sorry about that. Yeah, so a lot of my time has been make service portal look pretty, put CSS on things, which I hate. I don't like CSS, but it's a necessary evil. And so when we were talking about this, when my wife came to me with the idea for this, it was obvious that we were going to have to do a portal page and stuff like sending events between widgets is so much easier on Portal than Now Experience, where it's just not documented. Yeah, and I guess this is what myself and my team are more interested in. Some of them haven't done as much Portal work as I have, which is understandable. But that's what a hackathon is sort of for. It's to help learn, have some fun, do something that you wouldn't normally do in your day-to-day and not really have any consequences. So yeah, I'm having fun. I'm excited to see where we get to in our plan, because it is it's a big thing, and there are a lot of, this is the minimum viable product. If we get there, that's awesome. If we don't, that's okay. If we get to minimum viable product tomorrow morning, then there's so much more stuff that we can put into this. Things like managing the access for medication. So if you've got IVs, if you've got central lines, if you've got crazy IO things drilled into your bones, like so many of these things we could start documenting. You could manage the fluids that are hung. Like there's a lot of options. We're never going to run out of work in these few days. So yeah. So how am I going to get this object? Maybe I should pass out comma separated strings. Yeah, no worries, Victor. I'm glad to have been of some interest. I have put a few blogs together. I don't know if you've been to my website. It's just andrew.albury-dor.com. I've run through setting up your Now environment with the CLI, writing your first component, a bit of addendum stuff like how to manage node packages and what the hell a node package is, and that sort of, like, as I've been learning, I've been writing it down. And I've got some pretty good feedback from that. So if you are interested in Now Experience, that's not so much opinions, but yeah, just stuff that I've been writing. So I guess the with this problem that I'm facing, is this going to be the way to go? Const dot. I've got rhythm. I've got notes. I need shock, and I don't know if I do need shock actually. Out dot shock time. Shock. Was there a special column added to the shock table? There's an action choice on the shock table. I guess that's whether it was shocked or dumped. Well, I'll get that. It was action. So we jump back over here. Action. Let's see. See you later, Igor. This page. Shock. Dump. Okay, yeah, so it's not actually shock time, it's the action that was taken. Frick, I need to fix these tabs. Getting out of control. Shock action. And if table equals const dot drug out dot. Now this one is actually going to be more interesting, I think, because there is probably 1, 2, 3. 2, 3, 4. There's going to be 5 pieces of information, and this is the one that's going to mean that I can't just pass a string with a few. What you call it? That's a form. I don't want the form. I want drug administered table. So we need the drug given. You know what? I'm going to move that over there and that there. There we go. So it's all nice and, well, I would say neat. Equals grev.get value drug given 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I said drug given dose ordered by, so that is the person who ordered it. I'm going to get the display value for that, I think, because that's a reference to a staff. Reference to the staff. Drug given ordered by class. That shouldn't be a reference to staff. That should be a reference to maybe a choice, actually. Ordered, checked, administered. That one needs to be a choice. No. Because we're going to have a text field. I'm just going to make it a string. For now. We can come back to that. Drug given dose ordered by, checked by. So whenever you administer a drug, somebody asks for it, a person who is there checks that the drug being given is the correct one, and then somebody gives that drug. They may be the same person, but it shouldn't be checked by the same person. Administered by, that's the one. Obviously, because that helps to reduce the medication faults when somebody's like, I need to give the patient this drug, and nobody actually realizes that that drug is not the one that they needed to give. Now, I'm still getting a null on notes. So I need to fix that. So table const notes, get value notes. If I have a look at notes, notes is a string. I wonder why that isn't returning. Get value note, like, Nope. If I go over here, I go back. No, I'll need that one open. Oh, I've got that one open. Background scripts. In resource runner var gr equals new wide record const notes gr.get. I've got one of these over here. Copy sysid. gs.info gr.get display value notes. So this is essentially what I'm doing. And yeah, that's worked. I wonder if the notes associated with this particular resource event, maybe that's not working. Maybe they don't have so filter resuscitation sysid is that. Well, that makes sense, doesn't it now? It's funny that you don't get anything back when you don't have anything to return. I wonder why that is. I wonder. Let's have a look at that one. We'll have a look at the notes widget. Notes. Text area, ID notes, right? So that should get its value and pass it into the notes. That's fine. It broadcasts the object with table and notes. I don't know why that's not working. See, we get that there. That's the latest one. So the listener caught write event. So that means that the notes thing is working. Because that's not the listener, that's the talker. And then rhythm. I wonder what the cycle stats. Set value. I wonder if it's because it's capped. Hey, there we go. Awesome. So it wasn't me, it was you. And not me or you. It was actually my teammate who accidentally capitalized an N where he shouldn't have. I am not going to blame him for that because I completely understand that happens. So I'm going to get rid of that. So we've got all of these really cool pieces of information. I still don't know how I'm going to push them into the object. Can you do a for each? on an object. Value of man. Add object to another object in JavaScript. How can I add JavaScript object to another object in dynamic? Mixing up arrays and objects. You can always add them later. I don't know. Add property to the object from another object. Extend. Second down. Right, first I'm trying to compare object 1 and object 2. How can I add? See, yeah, free code camp is great, but they're trying to help you learn and not just tell you how to do it. Hang on, what were they doing here? They were talking array stuff. Dot keys. Oh, I knew there was a way. X dot keys. No. Maybe I'm overcomplicating it with this bloody event. Kill the event and just do it all of this with a bit of that inside here. So because I've got the class name. Yeah, so for every event, I'll just do another lookup because I'm going to have to do it anyway. And instead of table, that, and then instead of out, we just add it to event. And we do the event push stuff. That's going to work. I mean, you should put things in functions. But if it takes you longer than 10 or 15 minutes, then freaking screw it. So here are our events. Is it shows null? Note. Note is null. It's not working. Why is that not working? Why is it not working? That looks fine. Are they all not working? What's this? Rhythm, null. Rhythm, null. Shock action, null. Am I pushing the wrong SysID in? No. That's a bit confusing. The get values aren't working. Because it's adding the rhythm, note, shock action, that sort of crap. That's getting added. I guess that makes sense because we know the class name works. It's a glide record there. I'll say $sp.log grev.get display value, just to make sure that that glide record is actually going somewhere. That's interesting. Let's get the display value of time. Oops, frick. That's 16 empties. The glide record's not working. Wonder if we have any. I'll come back here. Errors. I don't think we do. Oh, huh. We probably need an underscore in the SysID. I knew it'd be something like that. There we go. We have outputs, and I'll bet if That button. One of them. That's a null note. That's fine. That's a shock action shock. Awesome. Shock action shock. Rhythm VT. That's what we're after. That's a null note because it's a null note. All right, so that's pushed the additional information into our object. So then I start looking at this stuff. So that outage short description, which is kind of the title, I think. Priority resolution notes. So that's the first one. That's the heading there. Then I think there's another sort of we need to put in some times, we need to put in some cycle numbers, we need to put in shock, whether we shocked it or dumped it. Yeah, there's a bit to do. I'm glad I got that working. I think that I might call it an evening there. I have been live for an hour and a half. Had a bit of a chat, which is pretty cool. I need to, I think, stop thinking about this for a little bit and then get back into a bit more mundane ifs and that's and pastes, and then yeah. Oh, I also think I have to get my wife some banana cake. So, thanks so much for tuning in. It's been fun. I am enjoying the hackathon, but I am quite tired because my son wakes me up at 5 a.m. no matter what I want to do. As children do. So, thank you. I will see you later. Have a good evening. Goodbye.